Hello everybody, welcome to my channel again. I haven't been active for a couple of months because I spend a lot of time making other videos, as you can see in my channel, and I didn't feel there was enough views, because I really spend a lot of time making those videos, and then I was thinking, if I'm going to continue doing this, then I probably have to find a more efficient way, that I can do videos, and I'm trying something new this time around, and hopefully this is good enough. I still don't know who's going to watch this, but I planned on making a series about the Epstein, as you can see in the title, Epstein, the elites and the supernatural, because for a couple, I wouldn't even say months, I'll say years, I've been thinking about this topic deeply, and I felt like I had like many different pieces of a puzzle, a huge puzzle that I still didn't have a clear idea of what the main picture was, so to say. And now I feel like I have a more of an open idea to what it could be, and it can be, and probably is. Okay. um this is for entertainment purposes, I think I have to say, but at the same time I do think that all the information I'm going to be sharing is available to anyone who wants to look for it. And my main job, I think, for this channel and for what I do in life is to join the dots. Okay, so I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. I just hopefully you listen to my point of view, and we can discuss or have an open debate in the comment section. But really, this is just my perspective of what has been happening, and probably the dark, reasonings, is that a word? The dark reasons behind all of this. Okay, so I'm making this series because there's so much information, I don't know where to start. So I have my phone here, and I made like on in the notes, I have like a bunch of just like word vomit, basically, of all the concepts and ideas I want to talk about today. And that's basically what I'm going to be doing throughout the series. Okay, so for today, I think I'm going to focus mainly on Epstein and on his circle. Well, his circle is huge, right? But his closest circle, so to say. And then we're going to go, we're going to see a lot of things. I don't want to necessarily spoil where we're going, but it's going to get very crazy. As you know, this channel is mainly about things that are beyond the brim, right? That's the name of my channel, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So as you can see here, we start with the title and an image that I think is quite an indication of where we're going to go. So let me just move forward to the next, because I'm also learning how to use this program, and apparently I can also show you like what Google Chrome and ChatGPT and other like YouTube videos and stuff. So I'm going to try to make it streaming style. I'm not a streamer, I've never streamed, but I think I'm going to use a bit of a streaming style until I'm comfortable with all of this. But don't worry, because the information is going to be here, and you're going to be paying. If you're paying attention, then I think it's just good enough as you know, as if I were streaming or not. All right. So what they don't want you to know about Epstein and the occult, because I know a lot of people are a bit turned off whenever we start bringing in spirituality and demons or angels or aliens or all of that. But this channel is not probably not for you, or if you're interested and you're open enough to pay attention to what I'm saying and what I'm going to try to expose, then you're obviously welcome to this channel. I just don't want the comments of what are you smoking, because I'm not smoking anything. Okay, at least not now. So yeah, let's start with this, right? So what they don't want you to know about Epstein and the occult, the ties to the government, institutions, ideology, and the occult. So it's a lot of information. That's why I'm going to help myself with ChatGPT, just to help me, have a bit of a not a script, but yeah, well, like a bit of like, yeah, to help me not lose focus because there's so many things involved in this that I don't even know where to start. You know, I don't even know if this is the right place to start, but anywhere, any place you start, I think it's good enough because I've been thinking about doing this for months, you know, for years actually, but especially for months. So let's go to the next PowerPoint. All right, the island. So what we know about the island is that it was called, or I guess it's still called, Little St. James. All right, this is an island that is, if we look at Google Maps, which I might do it right now, it's nestled between like two main Virgin Islands, right? It's called Little St. James, and it was a private island owned by Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire financier, which we're gonna find out he wasn't really this. He was a billionaire, but not necessarily a financier, with deep ties to elites, royals, politicians. I mean, up to this point, I think we all know, right? If you've been paying attention to this case, we all know more or less what's going on with this. But now, if you give me a second, I'm just gonna try to. I have this in Spanish, and I don't know why, but um, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to show you guys. All right, I'm back. So yeah, I'm still learning as I was saying, but so here we have the maps. So I have Google Maps, just so you have an idea of where this place is. I don't know if you're good with geography. I'm quite a fan of geography and maps and all this, so I have an idea of where it is. But as you can see, so obviously this is America, Africa, Europe. Okay, there's things you should know. But down here is where we go into the Caribbean, right? And here, as you can see, we have the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, right? Which is basically US territory. And then we have also the Virgin Islands, which I think half of them are part of the UK, the other half are part of the US. So if you go to this area, you know, you have a couple of islands, right? I don't know the name. This is St. John, apparently. I don't know, St. Thomas, all right? And then you have here Great St. James and then Little St. James. And this is the island that Jeffrey had. All right, so it's a really small island. And I don't know if we can see everything. I feel like they're hiding some parts because I know there's a temple that I'm going to show you later on. And I can't really find the temple here. It seemed to be, I think the temple is probably somewhere here because I know it was higher, a bit higher up. Maybe the temple was built here. I see a square, so maybe this was taken before he completed the temple, or maybe they're hiding the temple for a reason. Well, anyway, this is what I wanted to show you a bit of, so you have an idea of where it's located. All right, just so you have an idea. Obviously, here's the US. You know that he had several houses or, you know, territories that he lived in. I think one of them was Palm Beach. Then there was another one in New Mexico. Where's New Mexico? Arizona, New Mexico. Okay, here. Um, and then New York, and then also Paris, I think. So we're going to be checking the locations as we move. But just because we're going to start with the island, this is the island, right? So back to what we were talking about. Let me just get rid of this. All right, let's go back to what we were talking about. The island. All right, so this is the island featured a strange temple-like structure with mysterious symbolism. So this is what I'm gonna get into. All right, leading to widespread speculation about occult practices. According to survivors and investigators, underage girls were trafficked to the island, abused, and then forced to entertain powerful men. All right, so up to here we kind of know, except for the maybe, you know, the whole temple, and because that doesn't appear in the news. I wonder why. You know. Then other aspects, as you know, he had a private jet that was nicknamed the Lolita Express, right? So if you're not aware of what Lolita means, actually, let's keep this open. Wait, is it working? Can you see? Okay. So just in case you don't know what Lolita is, so Lolita, if we look, well, not this Lolita, English, yeah, this is the Lolita I wanted to show you. All right, so I think there was an original film that is actually from, I don't know if it's from the 50s or 60s or 70s, but this is the 1997 film, which actually I saw. and I didn't even know what it was about. But you can, just looking at the pictures, I think you have an idea of what it's about. And it's actually an adaptation from a book. It's quite disturbing, if I'm being honest. Even when I watched it and I was a child, what was I, a child? I was probably 13, 14 when I watched it, and it's really disturbing. It's not something, I don't even know how Hollywood got away. Well, Hollywood got away with, gets away with a lot of things when it comes to being inappropriate with children or young, not children, because I think this girl was like 13 or 14 when she felt this, or the character, she played. And you can see the whole vibe, okay? Uh, so apparently Lolita is a whole thing, Anybody who's into this type of genre, whatever this is, um, anyone who makes reference to this is probably into a large age gap between, the man and the woman, or and the girl, because she's not a woman. So anyway, he called the plane the Lolita Express. So you can already imagine, if you and I know what Lolita is, imagine, someone like Jeffrey Epstein's and all the people who got on his jet. Because people say like, well, people use his jet just because, rich people share their richness and, their whatever. I don't believe that, if you're getting on a plane that's called the Lolita Express, it's for a reason. Even if it's just to get from point A to point B, you're aware of what's going on. Okay. So enough with Lolita. This is quite disturbing, but I just wanted you guys to have an idea of how creepy this whole thing is. Back to this, right? So Lolita Express, and here we have some of the names. We're to keep talking about the Epstein list. The Epstein list. I think we have enough names. Not enough. Sorry, but we have a bunch of names that we can, I think, probably agree that they are on the list, right? I mean, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, okay, Lex Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, Ghislaine, of course, and then many more, that we're gonna try to investigate a bit more. Then we have, although many deny wrongdoing, flight logs, testimonies, and court documents have raised disturbing questions about what really happened on Little St. James. And who knew? Okay, so moving on to the next part. Let me see if I'm allowed to switch. All right, so this is the temple I was talking about. As you can see, it's like on an elevated side of the island, right? And it's near, well, it's an island, so obviously it's near the sea, but it's right like on a cliff edge, it seems. And this temple is very curious to me because the first time I saw this temple, I immediately thought of, which I'm going to show you right now, because I think, I think I should leave the thing open. The other, one second. I'm so sorry. Like, as soon as I get used to all of this, I think I'll be much smoother with it. Okay, goodbye, Lolita. Enough with you. So what was I saying? Yeah, okay, the temple. Now we're gonna go. I love using Google Maps, by the way. So if you guys are into this, then I will continue using Google Maps. But if you prefer a more professional, well, professional. I'm not a professional, but you know what I mean. Editing, I'm also open with that. So I'm gonna go to Jerusalem because there's one place, here it is, in Jerusalem that I mean, I don't really know much about Jerusalem. I've never been here, but whenever I see pictures of it, this seems to be quite iconic. So if we look at this, tell me, like, how similar, isn't it odd? Just how similar it is. And we all know that Jeffrey Epstein was Jewish, so I don't think it's much of a reach if he was inspired by this place. Can we play the video? I just want to see. Yeah, it's really similar, you guys. There's a golden dome and the color is blue and white, which we all know kind of represent Israel. So mind you, I'm not trying to, because I don't want people to start calling me anti-Semitic. I'm never gonna attack any religion, any culture, race, all of those things. I'm just as I said, joining the dots. And if this looks like that, then it looks like that. It's not my fault that Jeffrey bought an island and built a temple that was very similar to the one in Jerusalem. Right, so this is one side of this. Let me go back to what we were talking about. All right, so Epstein Island, was it a gateway to something darker? I have no idea if it was a gateway to something darker, but I know for a fact that they were doing strange things on this island and they had a temple. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is, uh, I mean, it seems a bit religious, but it doesn't necessarily look like any religion. As I said, the closest thing is the one in Jerusalem that I've seen. If you have seen anything similar to this, let me know in the comment section, please. All right, so behind the veil, Epstein, elites, and the supernatural. To understand this, we must start from the beginning. So here's where we're gonna maintain the other thing open because this is gonna be, sorry, this is gonna be the main part. All right, so can I make this bigger? Just give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna try to make it a bit bigger. I should have put it in the center. Yeah. All right. Um, so now we're gonna go to my best friend ChatGPT, and here we have a timeline, a bit of Jeffrey Epstein. So don't worry, I have like pictures and stuff. It's not gonna be boring. Well, I'm gonna try not to make it boring, but this is no fun matter if we're really being honest. I just have this kind of personality that I'll make jokes, every now and then, but I'm always gonna try to give you the information that I feel is extremely necessary for you to know. All right, so I don't know why I have so okay. Anyway, what I was saying, can I make this bigger? Okay, I think this works. So he was born in 1953. All right, 20th of January. I don't know what sign that is. 20th of January. It's probably Aquarius, if I'm correct. Aquarius. I don't really get along with Aquariuses, so no loss for me. I'm sorry if you're an Aquarius, by the way. But I just thought it was. Anyway, Brooklyn, New York. So he's a New Yorker. His father was Seymour Epstein. His mother was Pauline. Pauline from New. Well, anyway, sorry. The father worked in the city's park department, and the mother was a school aide. And he was raised in a working class Jewish family in Coney Island. All right, so working class. That's interesting because as we're gonna see, he really was able to, I don't know how, but scale up to the elite, from a working class Jewish family. All right, so then we move forward to 1971, 1974. So that's probably when he was around 20. And he attended Lafayette High School, or maybe 20, yeah, no, a bit below 20. So, 18, 19. He briefly studied in this place, but he did not graduate. Okay, so he never graduated. The mysterious entry into finance. So you're going to see a lot of mysterious entries involving whether it's Jeffrey or Ghislaine or Ghislaine's father, okay, which we're also going to investigate in this episode. So he lands a teaching job at the elite Dalton School in Manhattan. So I don't even know what this place is. I would like to see it in a map, maybe. Let's go. So some of these things I've read about. Okay, Dalton School. Interesting. It's quite in Manhattan. Interesting. Do we have pictures of the place? Okay, not too much. Um, so despite having no college degree, this is quite strange. I mean, this was the 70s, so maybe it was, a bit more, flexible. But when it comes to this, but at the same time, it is very strange that you're teaching in a school with no degree. But this is the part. So the school's headmaster was Donald Barr, the father of future U.S. Attorney General William Barr. So here we have another interesting character, which I'm going to show you a picture of this man, because apparently this man wrote a very disturbing book, a Donald Barr, and I think the book was called Space Relations. All right, so Space Relations, this book, which by the way is extremely difficult to find. I think it's if you go to Amazon, it's so expensive for some reason. We can go to Amazon and check it out. Uh, it was like not available. So in any case, sorry. Um, but this book, if we go here, sorry, I'm gonna open a new one, a new GPT, and I'm gonna ask it space relations summary of themes in the book. And we see here is a slightly gothic interplanetary. So now this gets stuck. It always gets stuck whenever I ask him about this book. I don't know why. But it's about power, the elite, social hierarchies, but then also slavery, okay, and moral ambiguity, sexuality, control, okay, sexual control, coercion, and like all of these topics that are very disturbing. Ways sexuality can be politicized and used to reinforce dominance. I mean, if this is not literally a summary of Jeffrey Epstein and his whole, you know, cabal, then I don't know. Because just look at this. Just look at this person who hired an unqualified, Jeffrey Epstein in the 70s to work, to teach, for him. Technology versus humanity, colonialism and cultural supremacy. I mean, what else can I say, you know? Uh, 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 so disturbing depictions of slavery and sexuality. So this is what I wanted to show you guys because this so-called Donald Barr, hired Jeffrey. Okay, so here he made connections to wealthy and powerful families. So here we already see, in 1976 is when Jeffrey Epstein, the person we know today, really started becoming this, demon-like entity in a way. But yeah, moving on, a bit further, uh, then he, in the late 70s, he gets a job at Stearns, or however you pronounce this, which is a major investment bank. So he got into banking and quickly rose through the ranks despite lacking formal. So the same story, rising through the ranks in a way that doesn't make sense. He just has connections and he's given these jobs that for some reason he is able to do. I don't know if he was able to do them, but for some reason he was put in these positions, which we're interested in knowing more, and we will be investigating more about this. So launches his own financial firm, blah, 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 blah. Then we go to the 80s, rising power and wealth, right? So he gained a massive wealth through unclear investment deals. So this is other shady business, right? Mostly tied to Wexner. So this is another guy that's part of the so-called Epstein list. It's all connected. If you see it here, it's quite clear. And this is ChatGPT telling me, okay? So the information is out there is what I mean. Then, well, yeah, he has a mansion in Manhattan, which is what I told you. A ranch in New Mexico, which we're going to investigate that too. It's called Ranch, if I'm correct. New Mexico. So this is apparently, well, if we go to Wikipedia, here we go. The ranch gained significant notoriety due to his association with the financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So, I mean, the ranch has its own Wikipedia page, which already says a lot, right? And if we look at pictures of the ranch, another strange, I don't know what this is, if I'm being honest. It's always like strange symbolism in these properties, But yeah, sorry. So this was like one of his properties. Then private jets, as we know, the Elite Express, and Little St. James Island, which we already spoke about. So just, wrapping it all together. And then his social elite circle, which involves Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and Harvard professors, scientists, and tech billionaires. Now, this is interesting because later on you're going to see the connections, because apparently Epstein was obsessed with science and experiments, and aliens and alien technology and, eugenics, like a whole lot of things, okay? Which you might think is crazy, but if you remember, he was hired by this crazy bar guy who wrote that disturbing book, about basically what Epstein ended up doing, and he helped him rise through the ranks. So uh, this is not so crazy, It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but in this day and age, what isn't? We've been lied to so much that I think it's really important. That's why I wanted to make this video, because I think it's really important to really start lifting, the, I don't know what I'm lifting what, but exposing basically is what I want to say. Exposing the dark secrets, and just joining the dots, because it's all here. Is what I've said. They're like pieces of a giant puzzle, and if we all work together, I think we're able to really find out what was going on. So as you know, he had his first legal trouble when he in 2005, which this is the excuse that Donald Trump uses of, oh, when I found out this happened, then we ended our relationship, which I doubt, but anyway. And then, as you all know, in 2019, he had the arrest and his mysterious death, which was suicide, but surveillance cameras failed and guards were asleep. And now they released a video, and there was 1 minute missing, and it was edited by Adobe Premium or something like that. So it's all very, very strange, and it sparked the meme. Epstein didn't kill himself, which is not a meme; it's actually the truth. I'm pretty sure. All right. So the timeline reveals a pattern of no formal education, no clear qualification, yet access to extreme wealth, political influence, and protection. Right. His life is one of doors opening without clear explanation. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Fueling theories that he may have been involved in blackmail, intelligence, or something even darker. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you. Obviously, here's some pictures of Epstein when he was teaching math and science. Apparently, there was also rumors that he was also very overly friendly, so to say, with the students, the girl students in this school, and that he may have been fired from that location due to his behavior. So I think he's always been this way. But if you think about it, in the 70s, a lot of men, not that I'm trying to excuse, but a lot of men, I think, got away with this sort of behavior. He even looks the part, if we're being honest. He looks like a creep, you know? So anyway, moving on, because now I want to go into, I don't know if I should go into Robert Maxwell or Ghislaine. But Robert Maxwell is more interesting than Ghislaine to me. Just so you have an idea, Robert Maxwell is the father, okay, of Ghislaine. So maybe um, we're gonna start with him. All right. So if you want a picture of Robert Maxwell, here he is with his daughter. Which, I'm not a fan of any of these people. That's obvious. They're not good people. But Ghislaine was kind of pretty when she was young, You could almost see like an innocence. Not a full innocence, because she does seem a bit crazy, but there's something about her. Like whenever I see pictures of when she was young, it's almost like she's kind of endearing. You know what I mean? But yeah, she's wicked and evil, that's for sure. But there's something about her that I can't put my finger on it. So anyway, the father looks exactly what he was. Like, look at this. Like, it looks like a Disney villain, from the 40s. Um, he literally looks like that. Like the bad guys from Pinocchio. He looks like one of those. Anyway, so Robert Maxwell. Let's go into this a little bit. I don't want to really make the video too long. But Robert Maxwell, he was born in the 20s. He was a Czech-born British media tycoon, which You're later gonna find out that he had several names. Let me see if I can actually find that out. Because if you are aware of Candace Owens, she has also a series about this. And let me just, Robert Maxwell, different names. And she exposed that he had about 5 different names. So Robert Maxwell was known by different names throughout his life. His birth name was Jan Ludwig Hyman Benjamin. So that's, I already know that's Jewish. Hoch, Hoch, or however you say. So both were Jewish, Epstein and Maxwell. Not that, as I said, I don't want to be anti-Semite or anything, but there is a connection here, which I think it is a bit important to point out. He also went by Ian Robert Maxwell and used the names Ivan du Maurier and Leslie du Maurier. So this is already weird, you have like 4 or 5 different names that have nothing to do with his original name for a reason. And I know many Jewish families changed their names after World War and all that, but this is just, I don't know if this was the norm. Why does he have a French name and an English name and is this like Czech maybe name? All right. He was sometimes referred to as Robert Joffe, Robert J, Bob Maxwell, Richard Fielding. Like this is completely. Yeah, I mean, there you have it. Okay, so he had a bunch of different names, which already points to him maybe hiding something or him having like multiple lives. Maybe he was a secret agent. This is where we're going with this. So he was obviously connected to the same thing, politics, intelligence. His life was marked by ambition, manipulation, and controversy. Born into a poor Jewish family. So here we have the same thing. Epstein was working class. Here, in this case, is a poor Jewish family in Eastern Europe. He survived the Holocaust. Okay, fought in World War II, and reinvented himself as a powerful figure in British society. So I don't even know how he went from being a Czech, poor Jewish boy into becoming, a powerful British figure. It's just very strange how they magically, jump through hoops and end up in being part of the elite. He built a vast publishing empire, lived extravagantly, and cultivated connections across. So the same story, the same story. Now, the interesting parts. So as I said before, he was, here we have it. His original name, June 10th. June 10th. What is that, a Gemini? I think that's a Gemini. I also don't get along with Geminis, you guys. I don't get along with Aquarius or Geminis. This is crazy. So he was born in this place, which is now Ukraine. Okay, so Czechoslovakia was part of Ukraine was part of Czechoslovakia. Let me just check this place. I hope I'm not boring you guys with all of this stuff, I think that's why streaming works maybe a bit better, because I can read your comments and answer whatever you guys are thinking. So this is the Ukraine, but right on the border with Romania. Now that's interesting. What an interesting place to be born. All right, so that's where he was born. It looks quite rural, definitely. And yeah, sorry. Let's go back to this. And into a poor Orthodox Jewish family. His father, I don't know how you pronounce this, Mechel or Mechel Hoch, a poor cattle dealer, and mother Hannah Slomowitz. Okay. He grew up multilingual, rural environment. Most of his family was murdered in the Holocaust. Well, that's quite traumatic, if I'm being honest. Quite traumatic. Then, obviously, this is the wartime. If you look at the dates. So apparently he fled the Nazis to France. So maybe that's where he changed his name into Du Maurier or all that. He joined the Czechoslovak army in exile and later the British army. But according to Candace, he also was, I think he was sent to Israel when he was younger. Let me see if I can find that too, because sometimes, sent to Israel. Well, I think Israel didn't exist back then, didn't it? Sorry. So maybe that happened later, but something is not adding up. Let me just check the news group. When? Okay, so there's nothing in the Google AI. Okay, so not really, but Candace talks about him going to Israel or something like that during this time or right after. I'm not really sure, but anyway, I think I will leave a link to Candace's also if you want to check it out, because she also does she does a tremendous job at investigating. But I think she doesn't like to focus on the more occult aspect of it, and I do. So that's why I wanted to make my own version of it. But as it says here, served in distinction in the Royal Army, so awarded the Military Cross for bravery and adopted the name Robert Maxwell to aid his integration into British society. So there's a lot of this happening, changing your names, integrating in a different society, moving countries, making these connections, and as I said, reaching the top magically in a way, right? Now this is the part that I really wanted to talk about, because after World War II, he began working in publishing, and became a British citizen. In 1949, he bought a scientific publishing house. Okay, so this is interesting already, because then that's going to be connected to Jeffrey Epstein's obsession with science too. But mind you, this is the father of Ghislaine, so this wasn't even Epstein's lineage. And so anyway, Pergamon Press, marking the beginning of his media empire. He served as a MP, blah, 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 cultivated ties with British intelligence, Mossad. So this is like the CIA from Israel. And it's a Cold War. So he was connected into all of these things. You can already imagine what we know and what we don't know. But, so then in the 60s, from the 60s to the 80s, he built Pergamon into a global publishing success, selling academic and scientific journals. So for some reason, he was extremely interested in selling academic and scientific books, And it's not here, but Candace talks about when he worked in Germany, he was sent to Berlin, and he was extremely interested in Nazi science, journals and science experiments. If you're not aware, the Nazis did a lot of things, and one of the darker things they did was like do experiments on some of the people they took into these camps. So yeah, let's go further into this, because this is actually the rabbit hole I think I want to go down later on. But just talking about finishing this, we have so allegedly worked with Mossad and other intelligence agencies. He's probably involved in armed deals, Cold War, all this stuff. He secretly began looting employee pension funds to prop up his crumbling empire. So obviously he's not, a moral person. And then, well, the mysterious death. This is another thing. Similar to Jeffrey Epstein, we have mysterious deaths, of these very powerful people who are very connected. But in November 1991, he died under mysterious circumstances after falling off his yacht, Lady Ghislaine, near the Canary Islands. Okay. Official cause, drowning, but speculation ranges from suicide to assassination. Who knows? After his death, it was revealed he had stolen 460 million pounds from pension funds, triggering one of the largest financial scandals in UK history. So he was a criminal, basically. He was a criminal who was extremely well connected. similar to Jeffrey, and he ended mysteriously. His life ended mysteriously, similar to Jeffrey Epstein, and there was a lot of money involved, similar to Jeffrey Epstein, and he was obsessed with science, similar to Jeffrey Epstein, and he was also, connected to Israel, similar to Jeffrey Epstein. So a lot of similarities going on, right? And whenever I heard this, I kept thinking, so he had stolen this money and then he died. I'm starting to think some of these people maybe pay to disappear, maybe they're sent to another country, maybe Israel. And this money is what they use to pay for this service. I mean, he was old enough, right? Because it was 1991 and he was born in the 20s. So, I mean, but at the same time, maybe his legal troubles were so big that he needed to disappear. So that's something I would like to investigate also. Then we have the daughter, obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was later involved in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. So suggesting continuing connections to elite power structures, all the stuff I was talking about earlier. All right, so this was the father of Ghislaine. Then, as we move on to Ghislaine, similarly, December 25th, is that Capricorn, maybe? Is he the Sagittarius? No, it's a Capricorn. I think it's a Capricorn. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Capricorn. I do like Capricorn, so maybe that's why I kind of like Ghislaine in a way. I mean, I don't like her. Okay, I don't like Ghislaine, but it's different. The other two, I immediately, just by looking at them, I feel, ugh, you so anyway, she was born in France to Robert Maxwell and to Elizabeth Menard, who was French. So basically, she was half Czech, half French, or half Ukrainian, half French. Um, Youngest of nine children. Nine children, Jesus Christ. In a wealthy but turbulent family, we already know that. She grew up in Oxford, England. Wow. Attended Marlborough College. And later, oh, I know this place actually. Anyway, Oxford, where she studied modern history and languages. Her father, blah, blah, blah. So, dies later as the following year. Lady Ghislaine, named after her. So she was obviously his favorite. After his death, it was discovered he had embezzled. We already knew that. Relocated to New York after her father's disgraceful death, became romantically and professionally involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So apparently, Jeffrey Epstein was already working with the father. This is something that Candace also talks about that I find very interesting that people don't mention, but they knew each other. Obviously, all of these people are very similar and they walk in very similar circles. So it's not crazy to think that obviously they were all involved in similar, doings. So then she asks, we know this is the part where we start understanding Ghislaine for the Ghislaine we know today, right? She started acting as Epstein's gatekeeper and recruiter, okay? Became embedded in elite American society. Mind you, this is not an American person, okay? Jeffrey was, but she wasn't. So the fact that she can become embedded in elite American society, from the Clintons to royalty, it's very interesting. But probably the royalty part makes more sense than the Clinton part. But in the sense of how she was able to do this job, okay? So she was known for her charm, multilingualism, and ability to navigate high social circles. So she was basically a social class, like a socialite kind of woman. Then obviously accused by multiple women of facilitating. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I've been speaking for too long. But the gist of Ghislaine, right? And she was sentenced to 20 years in prison in June 2022. All right. Now, so why is all of this important? All of this is important. Oh, by the way, pictures of Ghislaine. By the way, I think Ghislaine was actually in love with Jeffrey. Call me crazy. I don't think Jeffrey was in love with Ghislaine. I think he saw her as just like another pawn. But whenever I see them together, Ghislaine really looks happy and in love with him. She looks crazy too. She has like crazy eyes. If you look at them, she's creepy as. Oh my god! Look at this picture. No way. No way. Oh, she's nuts. She's absolutely nuts. She looks the part. Oh God. Oh God. Anyway, so all this is to say, because now we're gonna, take a turn into darker stuff. I know this is dark, by the way. I don't want people to think that I don't find all of this disturbing. I do, but I do think there's something darker behind. Remember I mentioned the temple. Remember I mentioned the occult. Remember I mentioned Robert Maxwell being interested in Nazi experiments. Okay, so that's where I really want to go with this. So if you're following me, don't worry, I think I'm gonna finish in 10 minutes, but for the next episode. But before I finish, I wanted to show you where I'm gonna take this. Okay, so 1 second. All right, so I'm back. Sorry. What I wanted to say is that now we're gonna go down a bit of the rabbit hole. So you are aware of the victims that came out, talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Some of them are here, some of them are not here anymore. And one that I find extremely interesting is one called Juliet Bryant, if I'm correct. And I found like this is the first person connected to this scandal that's finally, spoken about some of this dark stuff, that I know is behind all of this, because it's not just your typical, sex trafficking ring. I mean, I don't want to say that's typical, but you know what I mean. I think there was something spiritual behind this, something much darker. And one of these victims, or survivors, I should say, as you can see here, witness him shapeshift doing abuse. Okay, so this was already something extremely interesting for me, because what do you mean shapeshift? And I know exactly what she means, by the way, but let's listen to what she has to say. I hope you can hear it. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear it. Let me put the volume up before I play it.
Why did you choose the title Epstein, the Dragon, the Apple, and the Butterfly? There's obviously the butterfly comes back here as well to the blue butterfly. You were talking about you've got MK Ultra kind of connotations to the butterfly.
So this butterfly thing too is also weird. Okay.
With
Well, I'll let you know what I think about
with
this.
the monarch butterfly. So why did you choose that title? It's a lovely title.
Because when I was taken to the island, I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening, and it's just something that I had to explain to myself, because I saw him turn into something. And if someone else told me this, I wouldn't believe it, but unfortunately it happened to me. So I had to look into it and try to find reasons for it to explain it. It's not an easy thing to talk about, because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. Do you mind if I just have a puff of a cigarette? Sorry.
Yeah.
And then we keep going once.
Yeah, sure. We'll do another 5 minutes on top of this anyway, so that's fine.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So was this a theory that you were familiar with before? Was this the first time you heard it? So there's no suggestion in here. This is something you weren't aware of.
No, I wasn't aware of anything like that. A few years later, my mum started actually researching David Icke, and my mum knew about the whole reptilian theory, and
So reptilian theory, David Icke. All right, that's where we're going with this.
So then I sort of clicked what I'd seen, because the thing is, it wasn't actually like reptilian; it was more like an alien, like dragon, and that's when I looked into the draconians.
Alien dragon. So as you know, I don't know if you're into aliens, but this channel is obviously. And reptilians don't necessarily only have one appearance. They have, if they're into genetic manipulation and, taking your eggs and doing whatever they do, then there's obviously not just one type. And I wouldn't be surprised, because then there's a drawing. She made a drawing of this thing, of Jeffrey Epstein's transformation. And it does look like a reptilian, but it also has like the eyes of a gray. So I don't know if it's maybe a hybrid of a gray and a reptilian. There's definitely something there. And the reason why I believe this woman, not only because there's something about her, I don't know what it is. I feel like I can sense people's spirits in a way. And I know when people are telling the truth or people are not telling the truth. And the same way when I look at this, I get the heebie-jeebies, because there's something just dark beyond my comprehension. When I look at her, I see the innocence and the trauma, in a way. And I believe her. I definitely believe her, and I'm not just because of that, but I had my own experience seeing something like this in person, okay, with my friend. So you call me crazy, I don't give a, I mean, I have a channel that's about this, so call me crazy, but I've seen one of them, or I definitely saw something that wasn't from this world, and I didn't even know about reptilians when that happened to me. It was 4 or 5 years later when I had a conversation with someone else, and they mentioned. I mean, I could tell you the story, by the way. If any of you in the comments are interested, please let me know. I will gladly make a video about my own experience with a reptilian. I even have an image because I used like image generator AI to create what I saw. So I could really show you what I saw. And I think it would be quite amazing if I'm able to, well, to share it, with the world, and see how many people might have had similar experiences. Okay, so anyway, moving on.
Seen. Because, the thing is, it wasn't actually like reptilian, it was more like an alien, like dragon. And that's when I looked into the Draconians, the Draco law, also the Order of the Dragon, the royal family are all apparently part of the Order.
By the way, there's a whole thing about draconians, and if you look in history, whether it's from Christianity or other religions or other cultures, you're always going to see dragons are involved for some reason. I know here in Europe, we have the slaying of the dragon. George, I think is it George? Yeah, I think it's George who slayed the dragon, or also I think in Ireland you have Patrick who killed all the snakes. There's always this kind of lore connected to reptilians and religion, and the good guys killing their reptilians. So this is not crazy. I think a lot of people think that this is conspiracy theory territory, and this is just for junkies or deranged, tinfoil hat people. But if you really start investigating, by the way, if you want like a series on reptilianism, I might do it, because there's so much information around, um, about this, about what it means, the whole dragons lore, whether it's in Europe or in Asia or in America, which is very telling. Okay.
Of the dragon, also their descendant Vlad the Drac used to drink blood, Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler, that's basically the person who inspired the lore of Dracula, vampires, blood drinkers, and she's mentioning it, for a reason.
So I looked into a lot of history, and it sort of, it explained. But I saw him shift into something. It only happened once, but I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big.
That's a very good point. A weird hologram, because my experience was also a weird hologram. Not necessarily. I understand what she means, because what I experienced was almost like the overlapping of two planes. It's almost as if I was, lifting some sort of dimensional veil or something. There was definitely an overlapping of two things, and I could see what was hiding behind. It's very strange. If you see the image, you will understand. But when she says holographic image, I perfectly understand what she means, and she doesn't mean that she was hallucinating anything, because I saw this too. Not this specific one. The one I saw was a bit different, but I know what she's talking about.
But I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. And
So
it
it had
happened.
big
Don't worry, she drew a picture of what she saw, and I'm going to show you because it's on another video.
big black eyes, and it wasn't quite reptilian, but it was esque.
Yeah, it was like it was like reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. It was like, it wasn't like the usual reptilian pictures that they draw of people but I saw it, and it was like, and I was, when I looked at him and saw him as that, I decided to look away. And
I'm more afraid of this face than the reptilian face. There's just something really wicked about this man.
And look back at him, and when I looked back, it was him again.
All right, right, so the dragon, the island, and the butterfly. The butterfly is another thing because apparently all the victims ended up using a blue butterfly as some sort of symbolism, you know. And I don't know if they went through some trauma or, you know, like brain, I don't know what you call it. What's the name that people call it? MK Ultra or some sort of, you know, experiment laboratory, you know, situation. But a lot of them started like using butterflies to represent, like if I had, oh, you see? So this is the woman who ended up apparently committing suicide. Here you see her with Prince Andrew when she was, I think, 14 or 15, and obviously Ghislaine. I don't know if this is her too. Maybe it is. But here's her, and she ended up, you know, perishing this year. People say, well, people say, there's really no information about how she died. I was Googling, you know, a whole night looking for something. I couldn't find anything. Apparently, she was in an accident a month before her death. So it's already fishy. The whole situation is fishy. And she ended up, you know, not here anymore. But look at this. Look at the blue butterfly she used as her profile picture. Right? And then when we're talking about Juliet, she also has, I don't know where, but I saw it somewhere. She also used butterflies. And then there was another victim who painted here, who painted this. Okay, this is another victim who I don't even know what to say. You know, if you look at this, you have Ghislaine, who's kind of like a dragon, and she's eating someone. You have Epstein here inside a UFO. This is a different victim, okay? This is not this one. This is a completely different victim who's also mentioning alien stuff and reptilian stuff. Right, and then here you have Elon Musk, I think. And I think Donald Trump is also here. Oh, here, on top of a mushroom. And if you see this bird, isn't this the same as the temple bird? You know, if you remember the temple, I don't know where we have the temple picture. Oh God, where is the temple? Oh, if I just put Jeffrey Epstein temple island, I showed you pictures, and the temple had this here. Here we have it. So you can see that thing, that sort of structure on top of the temple. You're not gonna tell me it looks exactly like this thing. It does. So obviously this is the island represented. There's UFOs for some reason. I don't know who this is, who's naked. I think this is Bezos. This is like hell, and this is a tree for some reason with an owl, which owl is also symbolism for these people. I will speak about it later, you know, in another episode. I mean, CNN apparently is here too. Is this Hillary? This is crazy. I think I could spend hours trying to decipher whatever this is. But as you can see, the victims are clearly traumatized, and it's not just your regular, you know, story of sexual trafficking or abuse. There's something darker involved. Like, why would they involve reptilians and aliens and all this connection? This is Bill Clinton, right? I'm starting to see faces now, a bit more. I don't know who these are. I don't know what this is. It looks like a snake of many heads or something. Here's a rat. It's just very strange, if I'm being honest. Very, very strange. So anyway, moving on to the other video, which this is an interview. I definitely recommend you watch this one by I think it's Blair White, which I do like her. I think she's a very good person to really talk to these victims because she has the patience, you know. But the part I wanted to talk about, let me see if I find, because she also mentions the reptilian part here again. Wait, let me see if I find it.
And holding onto my hand for so long, but I didn't.
Okay, that's when she met him.
Before we started, I said any topics that you don't want to talk about, I'm
Okay, not here.
St. Bart's. I think it was St. Martin's, but I'm not sure. And then a helicopter would would take us from there to the island.
Lot from different politicians, whether they're using the topic to
Let me see if I
He
find
sent a
it.
few emails back and forth.
out the Trump administration.
Okay, sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pause this and then I'm gonna play it again once. Okay, I found the part, and she actually mentions the whole waking up in a lab, which I find insane.
We have a right to know if there's strange sky vehicles, you know, on both coasts of our country
I
and what
saw a
those are and if
UFO
that's a threat.
in New Mexico. You know, I saw
I saw UFOs in New Mexico. So when she speaks about New Mexico, she's talking about the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, which we already know New Mexico is kind of like a hotbed for all of this UFO phenomena. But yeah, the fact that she is so openly saying this, you know, and mixing it with such a what people consider serious topic, this is also serious. I don't understand why people want to discredit these elements of this story, because I feel like this is the missing link. This is what we were missing to understand the greater picture of how all of these people are able to go from poorer family or working families to the top like it's nothing. You know, how are they all connected? What do they all have in common? Sure, they're all pervs, but I don't think that's enough. You know, you can find a perv next door, you know, in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood perv is not Jeffrey Epstein, okay? It's not Robert Maxwell. It's not Ghislaine. It's not Bill Clinton and all these people. This is definitely something bigger and darker. And this is the part I want all of you to pay attention to. So let me just play.
Epstein
Can you say
finished
that one more
something.
time? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, well, I saw in New Mexico, I saw a UFO in the sky. You know, and then I've got that flashback, weird memory, waking up in a laboratory with 6 people in hazmat suits around me and a female doctor.
Waking up in a laboratory with 6 people with hazmat suits and a female doctor. This is so specific. Like, she's not making this up. And not only that, but if you're into ufology and all this lore, you're gonna find out that this is all these are common themes you're going to find, like people being abducted, memory loss, you know, waking up in a lab, people doing tests on them, taking their you know, their genes or their, if you're a woman, your eggs and things like that, uh, because they, for whatever reason, you know, but they're probably doing like genetic engineering or eugenics, creating their own specific race, you know. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein was obsessed with like a very particular kind of woman, um, which is a bit crazy, because then you start thinking, because you know, if it reminds you of Nazi Germany, right? You think about, well, the Nazis did that against the Jewish people, so why are these Jewish people doing exactly the same thing, right? And then I don't want to take it too far, but I also start thinking, you know, maybe they know something about aliens, or they know something about, you know, there's many races of aliens, one of them being the Nordics. And I think the rise of Nazism and Hitler's ideology, for however sick and twisted and, you know, and psychopathic it may be, I do think there's some connections to maybe the Nordic aliens. Maybe he saw one, or maybe he heard one, or maybe they captured one. Whatever it is, I think there's something connected to that, which is why I connect Robert Maxwell, you know, working in Berlin and taking these documents and science documents and suddenly becoming like a publisher of these science, you know, files, scientific files, and Jeffrey Epstein being obsessed with Harvard, with math, with physics, you know, inviting people like Stephen Hawking and what's the other one? I keep forgetting. Bill Gates. Bill Gates is another one. I used to be super friends with this man, with Jeffrey Epstein, going to the island, you know, and having meetings every week, you know, which Bill Gates' ex-wife spoke about this, by the way. So this all craziness is all connected to some degree, to some point. And this woman just saying that I saw UFO, and then I remember waking up in a lab and seeing people in hazmat suits and a female doctor. Like, this takes the Epstein scandal to a new level, a new completely level where I'm like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought. This is much darker, if I'm being honest. And I know that obviously sexual abuse and trafficking is super dark, but this is a new level. I mean, you know, this is spiritual. This is We're dealing with something we don't completely understand. And let me tell you right now, I'm pretty sure 80, 85, or maybe even 90% of the population, at least in the Western world, does not even believe in this, does not believe in reptilians or aliens or the greys or, all of this stuff. So, uh, how many steps behind is society really to the truth? Because one thing is like, well, why are the files not being released? Oh, they're hiding, they're protecting each other, they're all, the P words, and they're all, corrupt, and it's money, 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 and it's Israel. Okay, but what connects all of this together? Because it's not just money, 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 and being a perv. There's something darker. They're part of some sort of family of lineage of whatever it is that they are. If they're playing with genes and mixing things with other things, like at this point, we've missed so much of the big picture that, as I said, I'm just getting pieces of a puzzle. Like I'm finding pieces every other week, and I'm supposed to see the big picture. It's really, really hard, and I think that's part of the play. That's part of the whole. Uh, that's what they're planning. That's their idea. Make it extremely confusing. Make it in a way that if you do find out, you're gonna be the crazy one. But here we have a victim, actually two victims already pointing to space and aliens. But here we have one directly talking to us and telling us that she saw UFOs and that she woke up in a lab and she saw Jeffrey Epstein's shapeshift into a reptilian alien. Like, at this point, if this is not clear enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. This is very, very clear to me, and of course, I had my own experience, so that's why I think it's easier for me to believe. But if you're not aware of this, I suggest please go down that rabbit hole. Please check out David Icke and check out anything that has to do with reptilians, okay, and the occult, and these rituals and this blood sacrifices and all of this kind of. I know it's very dark and it's sinister, but why was there a temple? If it was just a perv with money, why would there be a temple there? Obviously he's not religious, or if he's religious, he's not from the good side. I don't know what god or what gods or what entities or whatever he's serving, but it's definitely not uh, the light. It's the darkness. So this is all connected, you guys, and she's not crazy and she's not hallucinating, and because people like to say, oh, she's traumatized, she doesn't remember, she was so traumatized that she saw Jeffrey Epstein as a demon. She's traumatized, all right, but she saw what she saw. Okay, and if you accept her saying, oh, I saw Bill Clinton and all that, then you accept her saying, I saw UFOs and I saw a reptilian shapeshift. And I believe her because, anyway. Uh, so this is just, I think I'm going to end the video now. There's so much more. Oh, wait, no. This is what I wanted to show you. Here's the image of that Juliet drew of what she saw. So here we go.
And I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed and I was naked and I couldn't.
Paralyzed and naked. Like, that's the trauma, I think that's the part of her trauma. The way she is because she remembers some of this dark thing, stuff that was happening to her. I don't want to swear too much because I don't know, I want this to be monetized at some point. So I'm trying not to swear, and I'm trying to, even the topics and the themes we're talking about are so dark that I'm really trying. So I'm walking over eggshells here. But yeah, she's traumatized.
Couldn't move, I couldn't talk. And then this doctor came near my head and she said, don't worry, everything's okay. And I was out again. And I also saw Epstein shapeshift on the island. That was before. This happened in New Mexico. When I was on the island, I saw Epstein like suddenly, and people have actually asked some pretty good questions recently. It wasn't like I saw him turning like the Incredible Hulk. What happened is, it was when I was taken in the bedroom the one time, and he had like a blanket up to here.
Focus on the details. When someone explains a traumatic event and they have details to this level, it really rings true. Not only because I emotionally and also spiritually, I can read people, and I don't know if they're lying or not. Call me crazy, I don't care. But I can read people. I can read her. She's very sincere. She's very traumatized. She doesn't even like remembering these things she's talking about. But the details she gives, every time I hear her speak about it, she gives something new, but not in a way that doesn't it's aligned to the experience. She went to the room in the dark. It was covered with a blanket or something. She remembers these details, which is very telling.
And then I looked away and I looked at him, and suddenly it wasn't him anymore. It wasn't like I saw him turning. It was like it was him. And I looked away, and then
So you see what I mean? This is definitely reptilian, of course. You have the tongue, you have the scales and the shape of the head, but the eyes are not very reptilian-like. So that's why I think he might have been a hybrid, or I don't know if this is some sort of reptilian that possessed him to do these things. Because at the end of the day, I'm not fully aware of reptilians. I mean, I am, but not as much as I would like to. As I said, 4 years ago is when I discovered that reptilians could be a thing, and that was after me having an experience 4 years earlier. So this is 8 years since the original experience that I had, and only of those 8 years, only 4 years have I known exactly, not exactly, but I'll say 95%, conviction that I saw one of these things. But the eyes were different because the only thing I actually saw were the eyes, maybe a bit of the, this part of the face. But the eyes were the thing that really made it stand out. In this case, these look like gray eyes, like from the grays, the tall grays or the short grays or whatever. But this is more gray features, while the rest of the face is reptilian feature. So I don't think it's crazy to think he might have been a hybrid of those two things if he was making hybrids or using genes and doctors in subterranean labs in New Mexico, like, or maybe on a ship at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but it's not crazy. If you're drawing things, it's because you remember. Okay? And she remembers this. She remembers seeing this. That's why she can draw it.
when I looked back, it wasn't him. It was this weird creature. And then I looked away, and then I looked back, and it was him again. And I can't really explain that. I mean, I can explain it as well as I can, and I can understand. Do you know what? If someone else told me this, like I keep saying, I wouldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
totally wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, this person's either mad, or they were on drugs, or something. But the
And
problem is that I saw it, and I wasn't on drugs.
Thank you. Thank you. This is exactly what I wanted her. Like, yes, this is exactly my point of view. You would think she's on drugs, she's traumatized, oh, blah, blah, blah. But she knows she wasn't on drugs, and she knows she saw it. Like, you see things. And yeah, maybe you don't want to share it with the rest of the world because they might think you're crazy. But this whole concept, like this whole case is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. So I'm glad she's exposing everything. I'm glad she didn't keep this quiet because I've been thinking for a long time that there was something weird, alien connected to all of this. Not just all of this, but you know, all the occult situation and these secret societies and then whatever you want to call them, Illuminati, the deep state, whatever it is. I think there's an alien connection to it. And having her say this and be so convincing, because to me she is convincing. I don't know to you, but to me she is. I find this fascinating, honestly. And she is actually the reason that made me want to come back to my channel because she was the missing piece, you know? And for the rest of the series, we're going to be diving much more into the occult. We're going to be diving into Aleister Crowley, the CIA, the Mossad, rituals, aliens, abductions, all of it, because I think you are going to see the common themes and topics that I was talking about. I started up a bit more fact-based, so to say, but this is really where I want to go. This is where I want to go with this because I find this to be the most shocking. I don't find, that there are rich people who use money to abuse others. I mean, that happens every day. It happens, sadly, it happens every day in every country. But this whole alien stuff, this whole fascination with science, this whole thing that comes from Nazi Germany another interesting thing, that NASA hired a lot of Nazi scientists after World War. I think it was Operation Paperclip is called. So it's all connected. It's all connected. I think it never really ended. We like to think that Nazism and the ideology ended with the death of Hitler, but it really just moved from continent to other continent. It moved to America. And if you start investigating America from the 40s, at the moment the war ended, and you have Roswell occurring in New Mexico, okay, and then you have the CIA, the Men in Black, all of this lore, the abductions happening all over the country, and other countries too, but especially in the US. The all of it's so connected, and it's impossible to ignore. So that's why I wanted to make a series. I wanted to start with more of the Jeffrey Epstein's thing, but then I wanted to move on into what are the elements that I feel are really the unifying elements of all of this. The one unifying element of all of this, apart from money and greed and being a bad person, of course, but there's something spiritual, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, in this story.
Like, as far as I know.
100%. And just so you know where I stand, I don't think that people's unwillingness to believe something that sounds fantastical, or I don't think that.
So anyway, that's all. If you want to watch this video, I definitely recommend. They don't spend the whole hour talking about aliens, by the way. It's just, I think, this part, really. You have the picture, which is so... This is just... The fact that she drew it is all I really wanted. It's amazing that she drew this. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next episode. And don't worry, I'm going to make them much shorter. And I'm gonna investigate more of the occult. All right, but please pay attention to all of all I've been saying. It's all here. I think I need to work more on what it. You see, the origins of the blue butterfly symbol, MK Ultra, monarch mind controls. Like it's all. This is all connected, you guys. And then apparently the blue butterfly is also symbolism for I think this is like a Lilith in mythology and occultism. In Jewish folklore, it was Adam's first wife who refused to submit and was cast out of Eden, and she's represented by a blue butterfly, a symbol of female independence, sexuality, and sometimes demonic forces. Okay, this is all connected to the blue butterfly. So you guys, I'm not crazy. I mean, you can call me crazy, but I'm not crazy. It's all here. As I said, I want you to help me to put the puzzle together, because sometimes I get lost. There's just so much information and so many, mentions and across time, across countries, across languages. It's a lot. But I'm really trying to connect it all together, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense once I see it from this perspective, right? But on the other perspective, it just didn't make sense unless they're all together in some sort of occult, group, lineage, whatever you want to call it, royalty, demonic royalty, alien, whatever it is, there is something. Okay, this is not emptiness. The whole, why was there a temple? Why was there UFOs in New Mexico? Why was she taken to a lab? This is real. Okay, this is real. And if you don't believe it, then I guess good for you. Not really good for you, because at some point you're gonna wake up. But if you don't want to believe it, is a different thing. But all the signs are here. All the signs are here. So anyway, thank you very much. I took my time. Oh my God, 1 hour, 20 minutes. That's crazy. So I don't want to make any video longer than an hour. That's for sure. My plan was 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But I talk a lot. And I hope this was enough for you guys. Well, I know it's not enough. There's so much more information. But for the first episode of this series, I hope I was able to, capture your attention for as long as I did. I don't know if this is too long. I think it is too long, to be honest. But I watch videos that are 2 or 3 hours long, when I do other stuff. So maybe this could work as that kind of content. But don't worry, for the next videos, I'm going to try to make them shorter. I think I'm also going to make the video of my own experiences with dreams, astral travel, and my own reptilian situation that I had 8 years ago. And yeah, thank you very much for staying here, for subscribing to my channel, for liking the videos, comment, open debate in the comment section, as long as we're all respectful of each other. And yeah, I hope to to see you the next time, to talk to you guys in the next time, and maybe I will also get into streaming and live, stuff, because I feel like I like that sort of, you know, ongoing conversation you can have with your watchers, and yeah. So thank you very much. Okay, see you next time.